let's do some economics now. And China is one of Ghana's major trading partners. Its footprint can be found in almost every sector of the Ghanaian economy, with major investments that have a direct bearing on our growth. That is why developments in China could affect you. Now, China says it has dealt with poverty. That's a feat every country should be happy about. And yes, China is happy about this, but also concerned about the levels of inequality. The government is now introducing measures that will ensure wealth redistribution and clamp down on high incomes. On August 17, the Chinese president held a meeting with senior communist leaders in Beijing and explained his plan to achieve common prosperity. He called for excessive income to be, quote, reasonably adjusted. But what are the figures looking like? The Joy Research Desk pulled this from the World Bank website for us. And so we're looking at the poverty headcount ratio at national poverty lines in China. And so these are people who fall below the poverty line in China per the years that. And so in 2000, China had 49.8% of its population falling below the poverty line. Now, when you come to the year 2005, it came down to 30.2%. That is 2005. Now, you go down further to the year 2010. That is 5 years down the line. It goes down further to 17.2%. Now, it goes down even much further when you look at the year 2014. That is 7.2%. And then in the year 2020, now if you take 2019, which is the latest the World Bank gives us, that is 0.6%. But in the year 2020, China says it has dealt with, poverty. And so this figure should reflect when the website is updated to 0. And so China says it's dealt with poverty absolutely. But let's look at some of the indicators in terms of, for instance, the poverty headcount ratio between Ghana and China. We do a comparison. Let's do a comparison between Ghana and China so we appreciate this better. Now, in the year 2000, you have a figure of 49.8, which we brought to you, but the World Bank doesn't have figures for Ghana. Here's where the comparison begins. In the year 2005, China did 30.2%. Those are the people below the poverty line. Ghana, 31.9%. So pretty much around the same area, 30, 31. Now, 5 years down the line, in the year 2010, China drops to 17.2%. We do not have statistics for Ghana. But if you come to this year, which is 2012, Ghana goes down slightly to 24.4%. But what is China doing? China is doing 10%, 10.2%. Now, in this year, the year 2016, which is 4 years down the line, Ghana does 23.4%, slightly below, just a marginal drop from the 2012 figure. Ghana does 23.4%. But what is China doing in the year 2016? A massive drop to 4.5% in the year 2016. And that is very huge. And so that is what China is doing as per the poverty lines and how it's been able to reduce poverty drastically. Of course, we do not have the update for the year 2019 for Ghana. And the figures are in percentages. So just so you note, these are percentage figures we're bringing to you. But if you want to look at poverty, one way to look at it is through slum dwellers, especially in the urban centers. Let's look at the figures for Ghana and China. Now, in the year 1990, Ghana was doing 65.5%, China was doing 43.6%. You come to this year, Ghana, that's 1995, Ghana drops to 58.8%, China also drops marginally to 40.5%. Ghana also drops to 52.1%, and then China drops also marginally to 37.3%. But let me go to the very end of this so you appreciate what has been done. Now, in the year 2014, Ghana drops to 37.9%, but China drops to 25 0.2. And so, yes, Ghana has also been declining in terms of its slum dwellers in the urban areas, but China has done pretty well, I mean extremely well, in terms of dealing with that phenomenon. Let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to Professor Ebo Texin, who is an economist and a senior lecturer at the economics department of the University of Ghana. First of all, explain to us how excessive wealth can be a problem or can be problematic in any economy.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to your viewers. When you say excessive wealth, being wealthy is not a bad thing. And if an economy has wealth, it's a good thing. It is the distribution of wealth that has some negative consequences. And I think that's where your question is being directed at. Because increasingly, even though China has reduced its poverty appreciably, there's also a wide disparity in terms of income distribution. We have the very wealthiest who own capital and are the ones that are owning the wealth in China, especially along the coastal China because of the trade that is going on along the coast. So what happens when only a few people have the wealth is that it has implications for the growth of the economy.
Okay.
In the sense that if the majority of the people, especially those low middle income people, are poor and they are not doing very well and the disparity is against them, there's a fall in demand for goods that are produced in the economy. And because they demand the goods that are produced in the economy. So it's not a good thing. It also leads to a situation where the disparity goes into all social services, health, education, and all of that. And in some countries, have led to social strife, in the sense that those who are poor get poorer, and then at a point in time, people begin to rebel against the unjust society.
Okay.
So when wealth is in the hands of a few, it's not a good thing. And the income disparity has to become more even so that everybody partakes in the growth. And if you look at China over the years, China has been growing. China is now the trade hub of the world. So you should expect that the wealth that is being created out of that growth should be evenly spread. But it's in the hands of those who own capital. Labor is not doing too well in terms of wealth. However, there has been a reduction in poverty because of the fact that labor in China has been at the helm of production, and therefore people are earning incomes that are taking them above the poverty line. But yes, so it's the rich that are getting richer, and that is the problem.
But Prof, following the outburst of the president, we are learning of a surge in generosity among China's billionaires and tech giants. But some global investors have described the move as anti-capitalist and could have consequences. Do you agree with this?
Yes, it could. I mean, so what happens is that if the wealthiest are the ones that own capital, and they are the ones that are putting their capital to use, and you know, in trade, there's a lot of competition, innovation, and all of that, and trade leads to growth. So if the wealthy are the ones who own the capital, and there is now a policy, whether it's direct or indirect, to get them, to punish them for being wealthy, it will serve as a disincentive at the highest level of wealth creation. And that could have some implications for the Chinese economy. Don't forget that even if the part of the wealth of the wealthiest are taken away from them to given to the poor, it will fizzle out into the economy. It will even not even get to the poor. So I should think that it will have complications for the Chinese economy. What I expected them to do was rather to use taxes to tax the rich more, and then use that revenue to subsidize the poor, especially in education, health, so that they can educate themselves and also move up the skill ladder and possibly into the fold of those who own capital. But I'm not too sure what the body language of the president. I think that he has to be very careful, even though I know there's a lot of control in China.
Yeah.
If it disincentivizes the very wealthy, they might stop creating jobs. They might be content with what they have, and that might not work well for China.
Let's bring this home. China is now a giant in the global economy. How does these measures affect Africa and Ghana precisely?
I mean, if it does affect production in China, because those who own capital refuse to make good use of their capital because there is no point. There is no incentive for them to strive to go on to produce more. That will mean a reduction in production in China, and that will have consequences for the whole global economy, given that China is a major trading partner of almost every country in the world. So that itself is not a good sign for a country like Ghana, because China is now one of our trading partners. It will also mean that, and the other side of when you flip the coin, the other side is that supposing the wealth is taken from the wealthiest and given to the average Chinese person, if they demand our export, then that could also lead to a boost in our export. Okay. Don't forget our exports are mainly primary products, and it is low-income households that consume more of agricultural primary products. So if that is the case, then it could be to our advantage in terms of exports to China. But I have this strong suspicion that even if there is a deliberate policy to take the wealth from the wealthiest and give it to the poor in China, I do not foresee it leading to a better outcome for the poor, rather than the precise policies that they've done over the years to get the poor out of poverty. It will take a while for the income distribution to become more even. And what they need to do is to give opportunities for the poor in terms of education, in terms of health, and in terms of giving them support, especially in agriculture, for them to become highly productive and also create their own wealth. They might not get as wealthy as those who are very wealthy, who are participating in global trade, but at least it will make the income distribution a little bit even. And for Ghana, in the worst case scenario, if it affects production in China, it will make our imports from China relatively much more expensive. And that will be the main impact that it will have on China. What it will do for Ghana as well, what you could see as a positive aspect, is that normally those who come from China to come to work in Ghana are those who are coming from inland China, where poverty is relatively much higher. So if the distribution is done fairly well for it to become more even, it will stem the tide in the migration of those people who come to do galamsey in this country, and that might help us a little bit.
Very interesting analysis there. Prof, kindly hold on for me. We want to look at Ghana's debt classification. Ghana's total expenditure is projected to hit 128 billion Ghana cedis in the year 2022, leaving a huge deficit of almost 40 billion Ghana cedis. With Ghana's rising debt stock and the current downgrade of Ghana's outlook from stable to negative by Fitch Ratings, it has become imperative to ask how the government expects to fund its projected budget deficit. We'll go into this with Prof shortly, but let's look at what the World Bank statistics says on this. And so you would see, and these figures, let me explain to you quickly. So we are looking at the year 2016, for instance. Now, Ghana's debt stock, as of this year, was 122.2 billion, and all the figures here are in billion Ghana cedis. Now, the component of this, which was external, is 68.8, and domestic debt constituted 53.4. This is for the year 2016. If you look at the year 2017, it went up. So our debt stock went up to 142.5 billion Ghana cedis. Again, the component of it, which was external, 75.8, and then the domestic constituted 66.5. Now, it went up again in the year 2018 to 173.1. If you look at the composition here, you have 86.2 external, 86.9 domestic. So you see a marginal change where we owed more on the domestic level as compared to the external level. But our debt stock went up again in the year 2019 from 173.1 billion Ghana cedis. It went up to 218.2 billion Ghana cedis. Now, when you look at the composition, the external constituted 121.7 and the domestic 105. So the story reversed in terms of the component. It also went up further again in the year 2020. And in the year 2020, you see that the domestic composition went up. We owed more on the domestic front as compared to the external. So we had 149 for domestic debt, 141 for external. And then for the year 2021, it shot up further to 334.6. So Ghana's debt stock has been rising steadily. And for the year 2020, 2021, you see that we are owing more on the domestic front. Professor Ebo Texin, how does this come to you, especially when we have a budget deficit? How is government going to fund this? How should government navigate this as we approach the budget presentation next week?
I mean, there's no doubt that over the years, we have seen a drop in our domestic our revenue, tax revenue, as a percentage of GDP, and that has also led to the fact that we're running budget deficit. But what led to this upsurge in our debt has been the COVID, and there's no doubt. Almost every country in this global economy is facing huge budget deficits that will feed into their debt. So I normally want to look at the debt without the COVID impact, because these are not normal times. But for what is worse, if our debt to GDP ratio was relatively lower, maybe the COVID would have sent us into the levels that we are now. It is reassuring that after we signed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, last year, that is 2020, we are projecting to have a deficit of less than 5%, and then COVID shot it up to over 13%.
Yeah.
This year, we are expecting to have a budget deficit of 9.5%, all in the expectation that the economy will recover as soon as possible, so that we can raise enough revenues and then close that gap. So for me, I think that our concern more should be on how we can improve on domestic resource mobilization in the interim. For the budget deficit, the government will find a way of raising it anyway. I suspect that it might be more from the domestic credit market. It might not necessarily cut out the private sector this time, because interest rates are low, the treasury bill rates are low, so it will still leave some space for the private sector. So for me, I think that the government should look inward to borrow. The external borrowing in foreign currency is a toll on our economy. Because when our cedi depreciates, it means that we take more cedi equivalent of our revenue to make interest payments. And I think that we need to refocus and re-strategize so that we look more inward for whatever support we want. But over the years, if we are able to, I mean, with the Ghana card coming on stream, I heard the Vice President, His Excellency Mahmoud Bawumia, say that we're going to take advantage of the Ghana card. If you're able to boost our revenues, maybe above 18% for the next year, and look within the next 2-3 years, getting it slightly above 20%, I think that it will bring down our deficit, and then it would also free some fiscal space for us to be able to expand our economy, so that over time, our debt to GDP ratio will fall within acceptable and comfortable limits. We shouldn't get too much anxious about the debt to GDP ratio in these times. I think that what we need to ask ourselves, what are the plans in place for us to reduce the budget deficit? What are plans in place for us to reduce the debt to GDP ratio? And if our economy is being expanded, for us to be in a position to pay our debt more conveniently than it is currently. So for me, I'm not too much worried about the debt GDP ratio.
Very well, Prof. Thank you very much. That's Professor Ebo Texin, an economist and senior lecturer at the Economics Department of the University of Ghana. And the data we brought to you was pulled by the Joy Research Desk from the World Bank.